Hello, all. Well, I don't have time for a live stream this week, but I have to keep growing the channel. I have to keep bringing you guys science and technology related content here. So here we are. So I saw an interesting article. This one comes from Fox News. No, Dr. Dunbar isn't a diehard conservative, but the internet brings me these articles and sometimes they are compelling and I have to read them. So this is a technology story. I've heard I've heard that for quite a while. Our paper money and our coins are going away. That's a little disconcerting to me because having taken Dave Ramsey's financial piece, I do believe in using physical money, but it seems that the powers that be think that it's in somebody's best interests to move us to a completely digital currency. And I'm just wondering how easy it will be to budget that, because one of the advantages of using physical money is that you have more control over the money and you can feel the purchases when you use physical money. That's something Dave Ramsey taught in Financial Peace University, if you ever taken it. Anyway, this article is entitled Biden Administration is Quietly Planning for a Future Where You Don't Own Money. Okay, so we're going digital here. I think blockchain might be involved in this. Well, this is an opinion piece written by Justin Haskins. Under the leadership of President Joe Biden, the White House and the Federal Reserve have started to lay the groundwork for a programmable, trackable, easily manipulated digital currency. It might sound like something from a dystopian science fiction novel, but it's all too real, and it could soon change life in America forever. In March 2022, the Biden administration released a sweeping executive order that directed numerous federal agencies to crack down on digital assets, including on popular cryptocurrencies, as well as to study the potential development of a central bank digital currency, parentheses, CBDC. A CBDC would not be a digital version of the existing paper-based dollar, but rather an entirely new currency that would exist exclusively in digital form, meaning an electronic, non-physical form. In September 2022, the White House announced the completion of the CBDC reports. Although the administration did not officially propose a CBDC following the release of the reports, it did announce that it had developed policy objectives for a U.S. CBDC system. Biden also directed the leadership of the National Economic Council, National Security Council, Office of Science and Technology Policy, and the Treasury Department to meet regularly with the Federal Reserve to further design a potential CBDC. Since the flurry of action in September, the administration has worked tirelessly and quietly to advance the creation of a CBDC through various working groups, speeches, and coordinated efforts with non-government groups. Under the various CBDC proposals floated by the Biden administration and Federal Reserve, a U.S. CBDC would be programmable, traceable, and designed to promote various left-wing social goals, such as improving financial inclusion and equity. It would also be designed to help with transitioning to a net zero emissions economy and improving environmental justice. Unlike with decentralized cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, every transaction made using a CBDC could be easily traced to individual users by financial institutions, government agents, and or the Federal Reserve, depending on the details of the final design. Additionally, because a CBDC would be digital and programmable, rules could be imposed that limit spending on approved activities. So if the federal government or Federal Reserve were to determine that Americans are buying too much gasoline, for example, it could stop people from using CBDCs at gas stations with a few clicks on a computer. Perhaps most disturbing of all, however, is that under most of the CBDC designs discussed by the Biden administration and Federal Reserve, nearly all forms of ownership of CBDC money would also be strictly limited. Only large institutions such as banks, the federal government, and or the Federal Reserve would actually have ownership of CBDCs. Everyone else would be prevented from having absolute control over their digital money. That means in Biden's future, you will not own CBDC money and you'll have no privacy either. How exactly would the Biden administration prevent most forms of private ownership of digital money? To best understand the answer to that question, you first need to know important details about the existing banking system. Currently, when you go to the bank and deposit money into a checking or savings account, you immediately cease to own the money. The cash becomes the property of the bank. In most situations, the bank is required to return the money you provided to it at your request, but the cash ultimately belongs to the bank until you remove the money from your deposit account. Under the current system, there is a way to regain control of your money by withdrawing cash from a deposit account, and privacy laws prevent banks in many situations from giving away details about your financial accounts to third parties, including the government. But because CBDCs would only exist in digital form in a deposit account, and because they would be programmed to feed data to government, there would be no way for you to physically take CBDCs out of a depository account, store them privately, own them directly, or use them without being surveilled by a large institution. The Biden administration has directly acknowledged that a future where you don't own CBDCs is exactly what it and the Federal Reserve are now considering. For example, in the 2022 report about CBDCs, the Treasury Department stated there are two general architectures for CBDC intermediation. One, single tier, i.e., direct CBDC with the central bank, and two, a two-tier CBDC where intermediaries, potentially banks or non-bank financial intermediaries, would onboard and manage payments while the central bank records account balances. In other words, there's no scenario in which you would be able to store your digital money in a local hard drive or private storage account. All of your money would be kept by a bank or the Federal Reserve directly, which means they would own all of your CBDC money. Regardless of where your CBDCs are held, it's likely the federal government would have access to data about your purchases and other information, a design choice CBDC supporters say is necessary so that officials can limit criminal activity. The only significant privacy questions that remain in the minds of those who support CBDCs are about the extent of the data collection. For example, Biden's Undersecretary for Domestic Finance, Nellie Liang, explained in a March 22 speech about CBDCs that one way of reconciling privacy with illicit finance concerns in a retail CBDC might be to have a tiered structure in which less data are collected for small dollar transactions or small volume accounts. Note that Liang says less data might be collected for small dollar accounts. She doesn't say no data will be collected. If a programmable CBDC is rolled out in the near future, you won't own money and you'll have very little privacy, if any at all. That's great news for those who advocate for bigger government and want more power for large financial institutions, but it could prove to be a catastrophic loss of freedom for the rest of us. All right, so that's that article. There is some speculation in there, but this is a science and technology channel, and this is a technology story. So I don't know. I think what we currently have is fine. I do think that the government may want to track, well, they have an interest in tracking what people are doing. I know that that was a concern for the cryptocurrencies because they didn't necessarily belong to any government. And I think that one of the issues was that they had a hard time taxing that. On the other hand, I could see something like this being beneficial for tracking terrorist activities or weapons purchases. But in general, I am a traditionalist and I think we should stick with our paper money if possible or some form of it. So, I just wanted to read this. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. This is Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to donate something to the channel, that information is below in the description box. Also, please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. In addition to being a YouTube content creator, I am also a writer with 2 blogs and a book project on the way. And with that, I will wrap this up. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude, and always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.